The chapter begins with the fact that we are shown a huge house and then a certain apartment in which a couple is engaged in love affairs. The protagonist's name is Ko Dong-soo. He is 22 years old and he has already failed to enter the institute 3 times. And this girl is On Suk-yeon, who studies at the same college as him. They don't actually date, but she has huge cans and a cute face, so she looks like a doll that he does it with from time to time. He warned her that he was already at the limit, but she asked him to hold out even longer, but it was too late. As a result, he shot inside her. He is trying to study for the 3rd year in college, but admits that he does not care about studying. The girl warned him that today was not a safe day, and then went to the shower. He was lying on the bed and decided to smoke a little. He was thinking about why he doesn't like to study, and one of the reasons he chose is that his family is rich. He has a posh office that his parents lent him when they went abroad. After he graduated from high school, he had a bunch of friends thanks to his foreign branded car and his abundance of pocket money. In other words, he doesn't need anything in life because he will always be able to know love with a girl like Suk-yeon even without having to study. However, this life in which he could enjoy anything and anytime suddenly stopped. His mother called him and informed him that she and her father had just arrived at Incheon Airport. His parents, who are engaged in shoe sales and tourism, decided to shorten their trip to Bali and return to Korea when they heard that he had failed to enter the institute twice. He was surprised that they had already arrived, and his mother informed him that they had arrived on time and they had some luggage, so she asked them to meet them at the airport. Then the father picked up the phone and shouting asked him if he had removed what he asked him for, but he did it only partially. The father understood that his request meant nothing to him because he reminded him about it a few days ago, and he still did nothing. He started shouting at his son and the mother decided to intervene. Not wanting to listen to all this, he just hung up. It occurred to him that this was the end of his carefree life. After a while, he arrived at the airport and realized that for a while he would have to say goodbye to the fun. That's what he thought. Then he met his father and mother, but he saw someone else. Due to the fact that his parents returned, he had no idea that it would be much more fun than before when they were gone. He saw 2 beautiful ladies and was surprised. Then we see a shot of the maid telling the father of the family that he can't do it, but he tells her that everything is fine. The protagonist watched the whole picture and could not take his eyes off what he saw. My father cheated on my mother with a maid. The girl told him that he promised that they would not do it again, but he told her that this was not the first time. He asked her to remember who pays for her daughter's education. He started caressing her and told her to call him cute while his wife was not at home. She was his wife. At first he got very angry and realized that he was cheating on mom all the time and even wanted to break into the room. But then looking at the maid restraining her desire while his father was pestering her, for some reason he didn't have anger inside, but he was very excited looking at it. He started licking her and she couldn't take it anymore. The maid's mature body is just like in his dreams. The protagonist understood that it was much better than he had imagined. Then he accidentally dropped the phone and thought they might have heard it. But no, they were too busy with their own business. Taking the phone in his hands, he understood that they were doing something wrong. So why was he so nervous? At that moment, a great idea came to his mind. He decided to record everything on video. With it, he can force the maid to spread her legs in front of him. He was a little angry that initially she behaved like a nun, and now she is doing it with his father and calls him cute. The next day, Dad and the maid behaved as if nothing had happened. She was cooking, and he was reading the newspaper at the table. Dong-soo joined them and started eating, but it didn't last long. She suggested he try it. The protagonist realized that every time he saw the maid, she reminded him of the scene he witnessed last night. He could barely contain himself. Finally, his father, leaving, said that he would stay late today so the maid could leave early. Dong-soo was glad to be alone with the maid. Her father left and she was a little sad. When he went downstairs, he asked her if her father had left, to which she agreed and added that he would be late. Also that he would be having dinner alone, so she could cook something special. But he didn't know what he wanted. Instead, he asked her to come up to his room for a minute. He didn't understand a little what he was asking for. Her hand tightened and he thought it was a woman's instinct. Tension with sudden silence, she followed him and he invited the housekeeper, who was very nervous, like prey chasing away a predator. She asked him if there was anything he would like her to do. He noticed that she was nervous and it was cute. The sight of her aroused him even more, but he remained calm. The victim is still dangerous when she is vigilant. He admitted that there is nothing complicated here. He showed that his room is in a mess, so it really needs cleaning. He made her relax with his fake excuse. Dong-soo added that it was not urgent, so if she was busy, she could do it later. But the maid replied that everything was fine and got to work. After a few minutes, the tension she had against him quickly eased. He was glad that she had let her guard down just because of stupid excuses. He locked the door while she was busy cleaning the room and stared at her body, which was now completely defenseless. He thought her buns were damn tight. He was close enough to touch her and decided to act. He felt nervous and excited as he slowly approached her. He sat down next to her and wrapped his arms around her waist. The warmth of her body tickled his fingers. He offered to help her, but she wanted to do everything herself. The protagonist noticed that her voice was shaking and he insisted that he just wanted to help. He put his hand on hers and felt her body tremble. He assumed it was fear because she couldn't take his hand away. Feeling more confident, he reached into a more private area. However, she got up and told him that she would go. She wanted to cook fruit while he was studying. She tried to open the door, but did not come out. She turned to him and he held the door and started twisting her hair. He noticed that she smelled very good and the maid asked him not to do it. He put his hand in her pants and asked what not to do. He kept lowering his hand. She asked him to stop and said that if he didn't stop now, she would have to tell his parents everything. He just smiled and asked her if she was threatening him. He took out his phone and showed her a video of her doing it with his father. She was just in shock. Dong-soo asked her what it looked like and smiled again. Her eyes were trembling when he questioned her. He asked her if she understood what kind of situation she was in. He had her cornered. He asked what would happen when his mother saw this video, but the girl was horrified and only managed to say no. The protagonist noticed that she began to tremble and then she fell to her knees. She asked him not to tell her mother because she had no choice. She asked him with tears in her eyes and he asked her to tell her in more detail. The sight of her crying brought him a strange feeling of pleasure. She explained that his father had told her that she would only get a job if she did as he said. She begged him not to tell his mom. He ducked down and told her not to be afraid, as if he was trying to calm her down. He won't tell anyone while she's doing what he's saying and asked if she understands what he's driving at. He got up and went to the bed. Dong-soo sat down on the bed and said that there was no need to be afraid of her. He hid his nervousness and pretended that nothing had happened. He told her that he was not like his father. He did not want to threaten her. It's just going to be her choice. If she listens to him, he won't tell his mother. Then he invited her to sit next to him, which she didn't willingly, but did. She looked as if she was hesitating. However, the housekeeper quickly approached him and sat down next to him. He stared at her huge melons and was very happy. Her body, which he dreamed of. His heart was beating out of his chest, just because she sat next to him. He gently placed his hand on her hip and her body shuddered. But she did not resist or fight him off. Gaining confidence, he slowly began to lick her neck. He slowly laid her down on the bed. He ordered her to call him Your Highness from that moment on, and without hesitation she said it. Her face looked resigned. He put his finger to her lips and ordered her to lick them. He did everything gradually. Her tongue slowly wrapped around his fingers. Even though it was just a finger, she licked it as if it was his banana. While she was focusing on his finger, his other hand came closer to her dumpling and he touched it. Her legs shuddered in reflex and he ordered her to open her legs. She covered her face with her hand and did it. She carefully opened her legs. Her dumpling was revealed. He slowly moved his hands, feeling her whole. He could feel her trembling in his arms. Instead of resisting, she bit her lips. Seeing her reaction, he decided to be more courageous. He lifted her t-shirt a little and decided to lick her belly and slowly rolled up her underwear. Her cans popped out with tight clothes, her beautiful tan skin and her lush, elastic cans. He started massaging them as if he was obsessed with them. He pulled her by the whistle and brought his lips close to her can and began to lick them hard. She started to tremble and her pants started to get wet, and his pants expanded to the limit. He ordered her to take off her clothes again. She hesitated, but still decided to do it, and she took off her t-shirt and underwear. Her clothes fell one by one before his eyes, and finally the housekeeper was completely naked in front of him. He could no longer resist his excitement and took out his enraged banana. She looked very surprised looking at his throbbing banana. He asked her if his banana was better than his old father's. She looked away to avoid eye contact with him. He ordered her to come closer and she cautiously approached him and lowered him to her knees. He told her that his banana is like this because she is very beautiful, and therefore she needs to do something to calm him down, namely lick. After listening to him, she started doing it and he was over the moon with happiness. Her mouth was warmer and tighter than he thought. He grabbed her by the hair and began to enjoy the sensations of her lips on his banana. She inserted it completely into her mouth. This is an incredible pleasure that he could never even imagine with other girls. The housewife didn't even think about how wide she spread her legs when she enjoyed his banana. He grabbed her by the hair to maximize his sensations. But at that very moment, the doorbell broke the moment of his climax. A mother came into the house, calling for her son and Anida. She returned earlier than expected. The mother was surprised that no one was home. Then I went down very quickly and asked her how she went. The mother was surprised that Anita was at home. He sent her downstairs on purpose in such loose clothes. It was her plan to enslave her forever. The mother explained that she had a little work to do today, so she came earlier than expected. She asked to hand over her bags to take care of them, and her mother thanked her and immediately asked what she was doing on the second floor. She looked confused by the question from his mom. The mother didn't understand what she was doing with such enthusiasm that she didn't even hear the doorbell ring. She didn't know what to answer and could only mumble. Then Dong-soo appeared, who said that his room was a little dirty, so he asked her to clean it. He was standing next to her in case she said something unexpected. He also slowly understood her clothes to put even more pressure on her. He started massaging her bun so that his mom wouldn't notice it. He considered her his, and it was better for her not to think about a way to get out of this. She couldn't say a word and her face turned red. He asked his mother how much she had bought and how much bolder it was to move to her womb. She bought things for Ananda and Cecilia and said that she loved to buy something delicious and treat them when they were in Indonesia. When he opened her dumpling, her love juice began to flow from her. His fingers entered her as deeply as possible. She was unrealistically wet. She rested on the table and began to moan. At the same time, her mother asked her if everything was fine with her, but she replied that she was fine. The mother added that she can go to rest if she is not feeling very well, because she has been working very hard lately. But the girl assured that everything was fine with her and that there was no need to worry about her. Then his mom fell asleep very quickly. Most likely, she is very tired from traveling for work. The girl checked that her mother was asleep, while Dong-soo hugged her in full. He brought Anita to his mom's room on purpose. He kissed her neck and stuck his hand into the dumpling. When he pulled out his fingers, they were completely wet. He said she was gorgeous. He never thought she would get so wet in front of his mother. She admitted that it was all because of his hands. Anita called him the master and he grabbed her by the hair and pulled her to him. He told her that she should call him by another name. And she apologized, and he added that Anita had smeared his hand, so she had to make it clean, which she started to do. She was doing it and he called her a smart girl and a good girl. As she licked his fingers, he took the banana out of his pants. His banana started to shudder in anticipation. The girl asked not to do it here. She tried to leave, but he lifted one of her legs and thereby prevented her from escaping. She was panicking because she was afraid that his mother would wake up. But he only answered her again so that she wouldn't call him master. He slipped his banana between her legs and said it didn't matter, because now he was slowly going to make her his slave. He stuck his furious banana right into her dumpling. Her eyes widened. The pleasure of her dumpling he felt with his whole body. Her wet dumpling was slowly tightening his banana. He understood that it was a masterpiece, because his banana could feel it melting. He started gently shaking her waist to feel her dumpling even more. He could feel all the inner tenderness of her dumpling every time he did that. The housekeeper also looked like she was slowly starting to enjoy it. Her dumpling started to shudder and she started to moan. He understood that she was becoming a little more honest with him, because he could hear her moans, but she denied everything. She rejected his words and covered her mouth with her hands so that the moan would not slip from her lips. He started shouting at him that she was lying, because she was happy with his father's banana, and now she rides his son's banana. She couldn't even contain her excitement. Her dumpling is like a waterfall. She likes to do it near his mom's room. He uttered immoral words to further influence her, but she continued to deny everything. Because of her lies, he grabbed her by the hair. He also took the cans and added that if she lied to him, he would teach her a lesson. When she fixed his ego, he began to do it more intensively with her. He asked Anita how she was feeling and if she was still going to deny it. Her eyes began to lose focus. The guy asked her not to lose her head, because he is just starting. He started rubbing her weak spot while they were doing it. He clarified to her that she was now his slave. Her excitement became louder. He ordered her to stick out her tongue and he took her chin and they kissed. She said that he was her majesty and the protagonist realized that she had given up. He asked her to repeat it, because he didn't hear her a little. They joined their tongues and her thick saliva mixed with his in his mouth. Her dumpling began to tighten his banana even more, and soon there was a sense of the end. He said that he would finish now and he decided to do it inside her. She said if he kept going so hard, then she would. But the guy could no longer restrain himself and he shot inside her. From these sounds, the mother woke up and got out of bed, and when she went to the door to open it, she noticed only liquid under the door. After that day, his relationship with the housekeeper changed. He was doing it with her in the room. He asked her why she was holding back her excitement, because it's normal to moan. But the girl was worried that someone might hear. But Dong-soo assured her that no one would hear them, because the loud sound of the washing machine would help them. He asked her to lift her leg and lean on the typewriter, and he entered her. Immediately there was a knock on her door, and her mother asked if she was in the laundry. Anita replied that she was doing laundry now. The mother added that she should go up to her after it was done because she had a task for her. The protagonist told her in her ear that she had learned to lie pretty well and praised her. He thought she needed to be rewarded, and they started doing it. She told him it was too deep. Soon the housekeeper began to enjoy their relationship. Then she served the food to her father, and he looked at her strangely. His father could never have imagined that he had a relationship with her, and was constantly looking for an opportunity to be alone with Anita. But he did not succeed. Dong-soo asked his father how he was doing, and he started getting angry and tried to send him upstairs to study. His mother tried to stop him, but he stood his ground. Unlike his father, who had to hide his desire from his mother and him, he can satisfy his desire anytime and anywhere. He knew he couldn't do anything because of his mom. Then Anita was under the table and did all sorts of things with a banana. Dong-soo understood that his father had been holding back for a long time, because he was looking at her all the time like a hungry dog. He also asked her if he noticed that she was without underwear. He then asked her to speed up if she wanted to leave as soon as possible. Every day his excitement is quenched by his housekeeper, but what seemed like it would last forever soon became boring. When it became too easy to breed her for love, the spark that he first felt with her gradually began to fade. He was thinking about coming up with something else to feel more emotions. Then his friends came to him. They are here to cheer him up, because they thought that his parents would punish him. They asked him why he wasn't there. The protagonist replied that he had some business. Then the guys said that Sukyeon left for another guy while he was gone. He replied that he just didn't care. Friends were surprised, because he bought her expensive things and did everything to make love to her. They assumed that he was tired of her and that he already had a new girlfriend, but Dong-soo assured that they would find out soon. Then his friends told him that a new girl had transferred to them while he was away. She's a foreigner, so she's just here to learn a language to take an exam, but she's super beautiful. He was curious about the reaction of his friends, and he slowly turned his eyes, and suddenly a familiar face appeared in front of him. At that moment an interesting thought came into his head, and he found out this is the person he forgot about for a while, her daughter. After studying, Dong-soo took a bath because he was very tired. He picked up the phone and wondered what her daughter's name was. He assumed it was Cecilia. He understood that they had met in a very unexpected place. Excited, he looked at the photos he had taken secretly in college. She reminds him of her mom. She is definitely very beautiful. Then his housekeeper knocked and quietly went into the bathroom. She asked for forgiveness, and she told him that his parents had left on the first plane. They flew away for about 3 days, and Dong-soo understood that they were definitely lucky. He touched her and she shuddered. She was covered with only one towel. He told her that she does whatever he says, but Anita didn't answer anything. He asked her to eat next to him. His banana was still ready after he thought about her daughter. He noticed that she always smells so good. The housekeeper is trembling. Then he asked her again who he was, and Anita called him, Your Highness. Then he added what her body was born for, and she answered him. Hearing her answer, he pulled her jaw towards him and they kissed. Instead of resisting, the housekeeper responded to the kiss. He roughly grabbed the housekeeper and they started doing it. He was rougher than usual. She asked him to be slower after they did it, and he asked about her 20-year-old daughter. He enjoyed the pleasure of shooting inside her. Then he asked how old she was. Anita was 36 years old. He immediately realized that she got pregnant at the age of 16. He realized that she had been promiscuous from a young age, and she blushed as if she was ashamed. She said that she got married because of her family. He admitted that he doesn't care about her past because he likes her like that. At the same time, she got up and said that he should eat, so she would go cook. Dong-soo said that this is not required because it takes a lot of time and he will just order food at home, especially since they should have already come. The girl assumed that guests would come to them. The housekeeper was puzzled by his comment. He explained that it was a very nice thing. It was his little gift for her. Then the bell rang and someone shouted that they were already here. It was a gift he had just prepared for her. They were Dong-soo's friends. He told her to go and meet her gift. They didn't understand why he didn't open the door. Friends wanted to knock on the door. When the guy was doing it, the housekeeper opened the door and stood right in front of them. Friends were very embarrassed because of her. She asked for forgiveness and the guy asked if Dong-soo was at home, and she asked them to enter the house. She poured them tea. Friends understood that she was very beautiful. She had a great body, plus clothes so thin that they think they can see through her. Then the girl sat down and the guy looked at her and Anita noticed it and the guy averted his eyes. He was very embarrassed. He understood that now she would think badly of him. Then Dong-soo appeared and scared a friend. The protagonist asked why he was so scared, as if he had been caught peeping, but the guy denied everything. Dong-soo added that since he didn't do anything, he should calm down. A friend asked why he took so long to get down, but the protagonist explained that he was changing clothes. Another friend asked why he said to come, because he still has someone at home. The protagonist explained that there is no one superfluous because she is just a housekeeper. Friends understood that it was a little awkward because he said they should call the girls. At the same time, the protagonist began to laugh because the girls definitely would not walk with him and asked him to say something more plausible. A friend started laughing in response and the protagonist asked if they were preparing for girls. Hanada immediately said that she would be in the kitchen, so if she was needed, they should call her. But he grabbed her by the hand and asked where she was going without his permission. He pulled her to him and she fell into his arms. She called him the owner and he was very indignant and started groping her. He immediately asked the guys if they wanted to be with the girls. He also added that she is pretty good, and if they want, he can let them spend time with her. He kept groping her, and she started crying. They are frozen in fear of what is happening in front of them. He told them to stop just standing or else they don't want to. He kissed the housekeeper's neck so that the guys could see, and violently squeezed her melons with his hands. A friend asked him to stop fooling around, because he would be in trouble. Others also asked him to stop, because this time he went too far. Dong-soo asked them if they were really scared. If not, then they have nothing to worry about. He also asked them to look at her, because he thought she was very depraved. She does whatever he tells her. She is his slave. If they can't believe it, then we'll invite them to look at her cans. He held up his t-shirt, as if luring them. Cans of his housekeeper randomly swinging in front of them. He asked them if they were beautiful. He asked them to think, because she greeted them without underwear. He ordered her to do everything for their pleasure. Dong-gu added that he thought he could give them something nice, but if they still don't want it, then I'll take all the pleasure for myself. He grabbed his housekeeper and threw her on the floor. He asked her how dare she look at him like that. The protagonist ordered her to put a banana in her mouth and do everything to make it hard. The housekeeper closed her eyes in despair, but she eventually crawled to him on all fours and found her place. But before that, she had to thank him, which she did. She started licking a banana and he asked her to show them how she does it. He was sitting in front of his friends when he did this. He was like an emperor on the throne. They looked with an expression of disbelief at what was happening. He was treating the housekeeper more rudely now. He asked Anita to make it even better because all his friends are watching. And at that moment, one of his friends plucked up the courage and called his name. Bung blushed bright red to the neck, stuttered and barely uttered words. He didn't know if he could really do it. He generously waved his finger for Bung to come over. Jang tried to stop Bung, but pushed him away and said that he liked her very much. Bung approached him and Dong-soo told her to take off the housekeeper's pants. His hands were trembling. She tensed with tension when Bung put his hands on her body. She stopped doing it and he grabbed her. He ordered her to continue and she just looked at him in despair, and so he whispered in her ears. He confessed to her that he loves her, and the expression on her face turns him on a lot. He admitted that it would only be once and asked if she could do it for him. At this time, Bung looked intoxicated and couldn't take his eyes off his housekeeper. Her body was shaking violently when Bung started licking like a dog. His maid seemed to be trying to fight the playfulness and started shaking her head left and right with a banana. Another friend also wanted to join them and rejected his friend. But Jang held on to the end and Dong-soo told him to agree. He told him to stop staring and come have fun, because he wants to, and that's fine. The guy just couldn't hold back anymore and was on edge. Vaughn pushed Bung away and took his place. He stuck his face in and licked every corner and his housekeeper's body shook uncontrollably as his tongue pleasured her. Dong-soo smiled as he looked at Jang. His face was shocked by the sight that unfolded in front of him. He asked Vaughn to step back for a minute and picked up the housekeeper by the hair. The protagonist asked Anita if she could see it. Jang assumed that she was not his type and that she was old and not attractive to him. He saw Jang's trembling eyes. Dong-soo didn't like it and his ego suffered a little because of it. Dong-soo abandoned his housekeeper in front of Jang. He ordered her to satisfy all the desires of the young master, because of which his friend was simply shocked. His housekeeper crawled up to him and unzipped his pants. She took out his banana and started playing with it. Seeing all this, Dong-soo was very pleased. One action was enough and Jang gave up. Now he explores every part of his housekeeper's body. Bing was completely engrossed in her dumpling. The bodies of 3 guys and a housekeeper, intertwined with each other. Dong-soo thought they were crazy and that they were not the best rabid dogs. He watched intently as these dogs devoured the housekeeper. He remembered that he had the same feeling when he first saw Anita in his parents' bedroom. He decided to film it all on his phone. He was glad to finally see her face like this. He watched his housekeeper humoring hungry dogs. It turned him on a lot and he didn't understand why he was shaking so much. All three of them were doing this with her and then the guy used his hands and Anita shot. It was unexpected. The rudiments of anger flared up in him when he looked at the housekeeper, who seemed to belong to him, but she was shooting from another. But he was also overwhelmed by the strongest excitement, which suppressed other emotions. At the same time, Bung decided to push his friend away and lick it all off. Because of this picture, he began to touch himself, watching the housekeeper's face turn red. A friend asked Dongsu if he wanted to join them, but he replied that they should not worry about him and do whatever was on their mind. Now that Dongsu has allowed him, he has decided to proceed with the main course. She didn't want to do this and started asking Dongsu to help her, but he just filmed everything on his phone and filmed. As soon as he gave them the green light in their actions, the dogs immediately moved to a new level. A friend asked if Anita liked it and she started denying everything. Then he grabbed her by the hair and ordered her to confess and threw her away. Then Bung decided to intervene, because he also wanted to try it and a friend passed the baton. He lay down on the floor and Bing told her to ride him. Her body trembled with humiliation, but she did it. Bung grabbed it and stuck his tongue in. The maid shook the rolls uncontrollably when the fat one mixed their saliva. Then the guy asked Dong about the anus and this question took him by surprise. He told him that everything had been done for a long time and therefore decided to use it. But in fact, Dongsu lied because he didn't want them to start thinking that he was weak. And then he came in too. She bent like a bow and her buns took in the whole banana wunk. Because of this, Dongsu experienced intense jealousy and anger. His anger flared towards his friends who were taking her away from him for the first time. But the worst thing is that he was seized with the fear that he would lose Anita if this continued. He was very angry, but immediately calmed himself down, because he was still driving him crazy. Then Jang also came up and asked her if she could, and without hesitation, she did it with him. She looked at Dongsu. He felt sorry for her, but he could not step back. But for some reason it seemed to him that something was missing in this madness. He still needs something unusual and at that moment, his housekeeper's phone started vibrating. Her daughter, Cecilia, called. He grabbed her phone and ordered the guys to have fun, and he will come soon. Before he left, Anita could only say one word, but Dongsu silently closed the door behind him.